Welcome, everyone. Welcome to episode 8. Oh my goodness, episode 8 of Everyday Heroes Insights from Parents and Experts. Today, we have the most amazing woman, Melanie Dimmitt, who is coming to talk to us about so many different things. I'm just going to go live onto both of our platforms, and I think it's so important for you to be jumping on and listening. And if you've got questions, like I always say to parents and anyone who's listening, really, if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat, whether you're on Instagram or on Facebook, and I can actually ask Melanie directly live here. And she, you can get your answers done. So just a little bit about Mel. First of all, she's amazing. Let's all take a moment there. And she it's true. No, do not hide away from it. She's amazing. She has done so much for the special needs community and looking at, what it looks like to have a child with a feeding tube, what it looks like to raise a child who is non-speaking in a wheelchair, what it looks like to go through those early moments through her book called Special, what that looked like for different parents of disability, of children who have a disability or children who are neurodivergent. So I'm super excited to talk to her today about the app called Heba. I think I've been pronouncing it Heba, but
no, you're right. Heba, you were right.
Heba.
Heba's
Heba.
right.
Yes. Okay, good. Thank you for that, because I'm like, oh gosh, I think I said it wrong. Okay, so Mel, do you want to come on and introduce yourself and a little bit about your background so that everyone can hear from you?
Yeah, of course. But first, Nat, thank you so much for having me. It was such a treat to meet you when I was in Melbourne at the Source Kids Expo.
Yeah.
Felt, as you tend to with fellow caregivers, you're like, you're instantly one of my best friends. It was just so lovely to connect with you there. And thank you so much for all of the incredible work that you do for our community as well. We're very lucky to have you advocating for families. Bit of background, I'm coming to you from the Southern Highlands of New South Wales, which is about an hour and a half south of Sydney. We moved here from Sydney a few years ago with my family. So I've got my partner, Rowan, who works in the media. We're both writers and editors. I'm a journalist by trade. He edits a newspaper. And we have our 2 children. So we have my son, Arlo, who's 8. And he is a very charming young man with quadriplegic cerebral palsy and epilepsy. So he's a wheelchair. He's non-speaking. Oh, got a bit of.
Sorry, it might be me. I'm going to go on mute for some reason. I don't know why it happened, so I'm just going to go on mute.
All good. Sounds like we're having a party, having a good time. So we've got our beautiful son, Arlo, and then we also have our daughter, Odette, who we call Odie, and she's 6, and we call her our medically boring one. Hasn't got anything too interesting going on at the moment, but is extremely challenging in the fact that she is a 6-year-old young woman with a whole lot of things going on herself. So they both go to school together at our local public school. Arlo is beautifully supported in mainstream. We've been really lucky in this lovely small town that I thought I'd be miserable in. I've always been a city gal, but it's been absolute heaven here. And I always say I can park our giant Kia Carnival with the ramp that comes out the back for Arlo's wheelchair anywhere. That wasn't happening in Sydney, and we've just connected with a gorgeous community, plenty of disability families living around here. It's an easier way of life, and I think certainly for caregivers, I found just go with what's easiest, and it's been an absolute, we're very lucky. It's been a dream for us here for the last few years. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
I love that so much. And I'm a country girl too, and I'm like, I'm never going back. I'm never going back to the country. But, understandably, there's so much more space out in the country. So yes, for a wheelchair, yes, it's very much makes sense. I can't see how that would even work in Sydney, right? Trying to get a wheelchair out in the middle of.
It's hard enough with a pram. And look, we loved it. We were in Leichhardt and we were right near, what was great about it is we were right near a lot of Arlo's therapists. So he has physio, OT, speech, a whole lot of things going on. And I was able to walk to those things. But then COVID happened and all of his appointments went telehealth. And we realized, we're hands-on, with guidance, we can do all of his physio and what needs to happen. And so we've just taken our Sydney team with us virtually. And we have our appointments. We've got some local allied health as well, which has been great, but we've been able to keep our A team, as we call them, and just see them like we're doing online now. So COVID really changed things for us in a good way in many ways.
Yeah, I think it changed a lot for a lot of people, right?
Mm.
And it worked out what was working and what wasn't working, and really letting go of that sort of stuff. Okay, so let's get into it. What is Heba Care?
So Heba Care is the company name for this beautiful app that I'm working with called Heba. And Heba was designed by families like ours. It was co-designed by thousands of caregivers living all around the world to provide tools and access to care guidance that is really super helpful for families like ours. So basically it's a beautifully designed app where you can put the millions and trillions of bits of information and things we need to remember and things we need to track and things we need to know in one nice place in your pocket. So that is Heba in a nutshell. It's got a ton of functionality. I use it mostly for its care passport, where you put all of your child's care information, their care team, their medications, their likes and dislikes, all about them in there. And when we roll out of an ambulance into emergency after Arlo's had a seizure, and one of the doctors says to me, "What medications is your son on?" Instead of trying to remember the official names and doses of 12 different medications, I can shove a phone in their face. But it's loads of other functionality. We can track things like seizures. We've got Arlo's tube fed, so we need to be across his diet. So we track feeding, toileting, moods, things like that. And what I'm doing for this app is helping build their community. So I'm doing the thing I like to do best, which is interviewing, chatting with fellow caregivers like yourself, sharing their stories in our beautiful Discover page. So there's stories and advice from caregivers who are doing this thing, who get it. And we're building up this beautiful community there, which you are a part of, Nat. Thank you so much for sharing a gorgeous personal essay in our Discover section. I recommend everyone go and check it out.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it is. And it's important. This is why I created the podcast, was to have small bite-sized pieces of information that can shine a light on information where parents can be like, oh, I didn't even know that existed. Like, I didn't know that this was a thing. I didn't know that, oh, actually, all of these symptoms remind me of PDA, which actually my kid has. Or, just things where parents are already under enough stress as it is. They're having so much information come at them. And that's why I love the Heba app, because like you just pointed out just now, if your child, like both of my children have never had seizures, thank God, touch wood. But if they did, I would suspect that you'd probably be going into massive fight or flight, like as if you're going to remember what medication. You're just trying to like figure out how to make sure that your child is okay, to get them from point A to the hospital. And
Yeah.
to think that this app is, designed like that, to be able to record all of these things. Because I can tell you right now, I have got books upon books upon books of like my angel boy, what he ate for like, 3 months, and like how did he sleep, and what was his behavior like, and this and that and whatever. And
Yeah.
it's scattered all over the house, right? And
Yeah.
I'm just like, had I known, I wish I had have known about Heba before, when he was first diagnosed, because I would have been like, yes, this is exactly what I want, to be able to. And like, let's be honest, like the phone, hello, it's
Yeah.
with us all the time. Like, I'm not really carrying a notebook around.
Yeah.
Like, so we can just pop it in straight away.
Yeah, that's it. I wish I had had this thing. I was like, team, where were you? It's awesome. It also, we constantly have to remember not only information, but appointments. And if we don't go to those appointments, we get charged cancellation fees. The other beautiful thing that I'm not sure if I mentioned, there's a journal feature in here where you put all your appointments, you can set reminders for those appointments and things like medications, and your whole care team can be across all of this. You can have multi-carer login. You can share this app with your support workers, specialists, allied health, other carers, family members, and everyone can see everything that's happening. So if I go in there and change one of Arlo's appointment times or one of Arlo's medication doses, everyone can see that's happened. So I don't forget, Arlo's on antibiotics at the moment. I always forget to tell his support workers that, and they do his dinner sometimes. And I'm like, shit, he's missed his antibiotics, because it's in there. They can check before they do his medications and just see if anything's changed. And that just takes so much stress. It frees up a bit of space in here, because it's chock-a-block with the amount of moving pieces and bits, bits and bobs. So it really does take a load off in that sense. And it's also really pretty. I just find it very calming to look at. It's got a lovely like green color scheme going on. So it's easy on the eye too.
I love that. And as when you were saying that, the first thing that came to my mind is I wouldn't have to run multiple telehealth sessions where I have all the allied health all together so that we're all on the one page, right? Having an app where they can go in and see his progress and what they're working on. So that, because very often, OT is working on something, then speech is working on something else, and no one's really there's no that cohesiveness of supporting this child as a whole. And I think that that's really important to be able to have, like, we're a team, right? So it's when I look at my speechy and I look at my OT, we are an absolute team to house and protect and learn and care for this child. But we can't do that if everyone's just working in their own little bubble, right? Their own little lane. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I should ask you this, but I'm just, because I didn't ask you this before. Does Heba stand for something, or is like an acronym?
I think it's Arabic and it means gift. And
Oh,
so
I
it's
love that.
the caregiver community, a gift to our sanity, as I like to think of it. So that's
And
what it means. Yeah.
we need more of those gifts, please.
I
Thank you.
know.
Okay, so, and you sort of touched on it a little bit around what we were just talking about, but why do you think that Heba stands out as an app against all the rest of the apps that do something sort of maybe similar?
Well, firstly, to be frank, a lot of it is free. And I don't think I have found another app like this that's this comprehensive with this much functionality that has a free version. So most of what I use on there is free. The Care Passport, you can make a certain amount of journal entries and use the trackers. And then it has a premium level, but even that is substantially cheaper than other ones I've seen on the market. So it works out to be about $10 a month, which you can hopefully get covered through your child's NDIS plan. So it's a lot more accessible in that sense. I also, and selfishly, because this is my bit, I haven't seen other apps like this really focus on the community aspect, have these, we've got loads of interviews in there with caregivers all over the world. We share a lot of that on our socials, on our Instagram, like beautiful quotes and hindsight and wisdom from the caregiver community. So I really love, the emphasis on the knowledge and the support and the camaraderie that comes from just connecting with this community. And, as you well know, like you are seeing, like that just means like so much, especially for parents at the start of this and throughout. So I think that sets it aside. It also just does a lot. I'm not even, I'm only using a fraction of what this thing does, and it's super customizable. So whatever you want to keep track of for your child, you can customize the trackers. And on the premium level, you can get insights. It can correlate things. So, oh, your child had a seizure. Could it be to do with the fact that they didn't have as much sleep? And give those sorts of insights. It also has an AI-powered assistant. Then you can ask questions 24/7. So non-medical questions, non-legal questions, but things like, what are the best physiotherapist centers within 3 or 4, 5 kilometers of me? And it will come up with a list. Can you tell me some peer support groups I can connect with locally? It'll come up with this. How can I help my autistic child with a better sleep routine? It'll come up, it'll link to resources we have and also external resources where we don't have. So it just does a hell of a lot. And they're continuing to work on it. We're a startup, we're a small team, constantly gathering feedback, still constantly talking to families. And someone wants a change, they make it overnight. Like this thing is just getting better and better. And, I've been blown away by how smart the techie people in our team are and just how driven they are to make this thing as perfect as it can be for families like mine. Like that's what drew me in. I never planned to work for an app startup, but they got me. Just I couldn't believe their enthusiasm and their drive and determination to help. And we need help. We ran a study with our users that found that 92% of caregivers feel unsupported. And that didn't surprise me. It's a shocking, awful statistic, but I'm like, yeah, I know it. I hear it from our community. And then 85% of our users said Heba is helping them. Heba is making a difference. So we were so excited by that. And we're determined to get it to 100% and keep working and keep making this thing better for our community.
My gosh, that is a long list of things that it can do. That is very cool. And the fact that it's free, even more reason to jump on it and be part of it, because I think the fact that you can implement that feedback so quickly is so important. I don't know any other app that is taking into consideration feedback from people and looking at it and going, yeah, actually, this is a really good reason to why we need to amend this and change it. I love the community part. I think that as a caregiver, I can tell you there have been days where I have felt so lonely. And so, like, I would just waiting for the clock to tick down until my husband got home and be like, oh my gosh, another adult to talk to, right? Just because it can be very hard. And sometimes parents of typical children don't quite understand, what the heavy load is that you carry, and being up in the middle of the night and being, doing so many different things, and how that can really drain a person, and also just the change in identity. Like, I definitely know, and that was a really, really big one back when my angel boy was first diagnosed. Like, I just felt like I lost all of my identity. I didn't know who I was anymore. And so I think that having a Heba app that goes, yes, we're a group of people who all feel like that. We're all going through our challenges. This is really hard. This is really difficult, but we're going to get through it together. And this is how we're going to do it, right? Because it's so important. There's been so many studies that have shown that how community is so important, and it just blows my mind.
And you know it, right? Like, when I come away from a conversation with someone like you, I just feel awesome. I feel like I can totally be myself, and it hasn't been, I don't want to make them feel awkward. I don't want to, I haven't had to hide what's really going on in my life because other people just think it's a horror story. And I'm like, it's actually fine. That's just my life. I love that. And it's something that you don't know initially. Like, at the start, when we first got Arlo's diagnosis, I was super reluctant to connect with other parents raising kids with disabilities because I just wasn't ready to identify as a parent raising a child with disability. I was frightened of that word at the time. I've done a full 180 now. We are very, proud disability family. But at the start, unfortunately, you're influenced by a society that still largely thinks disability is a bad thing. So it's really scary at the start. And I just remember when I very first started having conversations with other parents in therapy waiting rooms and being like, oh, there's something here. There's a glimmer. Like, I feel better than I have in weeks just after this little, exchange of a tired eye glance with this person. There's real power in our community, and the knowledge. So often I hear from parents, I've learned more from other caregivers than I've ever learned from any medical expert, than I've ever learned from Google. We are a wealth of knowledge, and thank God for social media and apps and, the digital world, that we can connect and really come together and share this knowledge and share these experiences.
Oh, mate, say it again for the people in the back. Caregivers are a wealth of information, right? They've got lived experience around what it looks like and what they've tried and what they haven't tried and what's worked for their kid may or may not work for your child, and just trying it out and seeing what works. Because it really is the whole thing. I don't know about you, but I can tell you right now, for my angel boy, it was literally a let's test and measure. Try this, didn't work. Try this, it worked. Try this, didn't work. Try this, it worked. Like, just constantly going back to the drawing board and tweaking and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. But I'm going to segue just slightly. Can you tell us a little bit more about Arlo and how he came around to get his diagnosis and what happened?
Yeah, so the poor kid had a really rubbish birth. He lost oxygen while he was being born, and that resulted in brain damage. And it was very much a let's wait and see what happens here, as it so often is in our community. And, in his first few months, he was beautiful, smiley, engaged little kid, but didn't meet a single motor milestone. So he never rolled over, never sat up. He still doesn't. Like, left to his own devices, he will lie on the floor and smile at you gorgeously. So he needs a hell of a lot of support to go about his day. We got the diagnosis at 6 months of quadriplegic cerebral palsy and entered into this disability space. As I said, I was terrified. What I did that really helped me was I interviewed other caregivers. So I'm a journalist. I was writing in magazines at the time, and I just sort of escaped into what I knew how to do. And I thought, well, I'll pretend I'm writing a book about my experience and other people's experiences, and that'll be an excuse to get on the phone and get on Skype, as it was back then, and chat with other caregivers and just say, help me, please tell me this isn't what I think it is, please give me your coping strategies for how you got through the early months and years of this experience. And as you will know from chatting with other caregivers, they rained it down like gold. So many beautiful stories, so much advice, so much. It's totally fine. We know you feel terrible at the start. We promise you will feel differently. And I ended up actually making this into a book special, got a book deal, quickly wrote the thing on my maternity leave with my daughter, and it came out in 2019, and it was very unexpectedly quite successful. I'm still getting messages, 5 years later, from beautiful parents all over the world, who say that it's helped them, and it really helped me, and it got me working and writing in this space, which has just been incredible. And Arlo, the whole time he's just been doing his thing. He uses a wheelchair, he's non-speaking, he uses an AAC eye gaze device to speak, and he's very cheeky on that, tells a lot of jokes. If we have to hear what car does Mickey Mouse's wife drive, a minivan, again, I swear I'm going to lose it. But he's amazing. And, all the scary things, all the things I was dreading happened. My child doesn't walk. He doesn't talk. We've got a hoist in the garage that's about to come in here because, bless, he's getting bigger and heavier. But we're happy. And it makes sense. And because it's Arlo, it's just always made sense. When you have a baby, it's so scary because at the start you're like, what the heck does quadriplegic cerebral palsy mean? What is that going to look like? But I found, and as so many parents said to me, just by focusing on your child, just by trusting, just by letting them guide you through this experience, it will be okay. And it has been okay. That said, it's also really hard. He gets sick a lot. We're in hospital a lot. We can't access all of the fun things that he might like to do. There are definitely challenges. There are definitely really, really hard days. But on balance, I honestly think we are happier. We are much more interesting and close as a family than I think we would have been otherwise. And certainly from my perspective, I love the work I'm doing now. I get to have these awesome chats every day and work with exciting things like a startup. Heba are based in the UK. I got to go and visit the team in London. I used to live in London and I never dreamed I'd get to go back. And because of this work opportunity, I got to go back, and it's just, it's been a really wild ride and quite an amazing thing. And yeah, like I said, as a family, we're pretty ordinary. We're pretty happy. We laugh every day. Arlo's thriving at school. He's a super social kid, heaps of friends. He's going to be off trick-or-treating with them tomorrow. So yeah, he's happy. And so long as that's the case, so are we. And we feel generally very lucky.
Don't mind me, I'm just a bit tearing up over here. Because it's so, I just take myself back to when he was diagnosed and how I thought that my life was over and how hard it was. And your whole face is lit up when you talk like that. And when you speak about Arlo and you speak about the differences of how he has changed your life, and not to negate the fact that it's hard, right? It's hard, but it's hard raising typical kids too,
Yeah.
right? It's hard. Granted, not exactly the same, but it's still hard, right? Raising children is hard. And, I wish, okay, you know what? I feel like everyone needs to record this on your phone. I feel like, go back and just re-record what Mel just said. So when you're having that hard day, you can just re-listen to that and go, you know what? It actually worked out for the best. Everything worked out. It's okay. It's okay to be scared, but it's also okay to step into joy and happiness and all the most amazing things, because so often we are scared, too scared to move, too scared to make a decision, too scared to pick up the phone and talk to a therapist for saying the wrong thing or not asking for the right questions, or so many things that come up. And I love that. I love your energy. I love how you're expressing it, because parents need this. Parents need to know and need to see that this is what hard looks like, and it can still be beautiful. This is what hard looks like, and it can still be amazing, and you can still be grateful, and you can still live a really awesome life and still be so completely and utterly fulfilled. And I want that for so many parents who I speak to, so many of my clients who just live in the lack, the living in the, I don't have that. I don't have what she has. I don't have what he has. I don't, it's always coming from the deficit. And you're a true testament to that. So thank you. My goodness, thank you.
Oh, thank you. I mean, again, I've been lucky. A lot of things fell into place. If we didn't have the NDIS, I do not think I would be sitting here as happy as I am. We've had the funds to put an incredible support team around Arlo. His, A team, his allied health, his specialists. We have cherry picked them. We have hired and fired as necessary and made sure they are top notch and they are a huge support. I have a supportive partner. There are a lot of things that I don't take for granted. I see a therapist. I pretty much started seeing a therapist soon after the diagnosis. That helps enormously. I try very, very hard to look after my own mental health. I'm lucky I can work. My work is flexible, so I'm really fulfilled by that. So I don't want to minimize, this is my experience. I am lucky. I am happy. That's not the case for every caregiver. But at the start, I just thought this was doom and gloom no matter what. And I love spreading that message that no, this is okay. There are many ways to be in this world. Just because this isn't going to look like how you thought, it doesn't mean it can't be good. And I am trying to sing that out as much as I can. So thank you again for having me and letting me say it here.
No, we need it. We need reminding. I tell you that. Well, I need reminders, right? Like I'm gonna say, I need reminders that this is what it can look like. Because don't get me wrong, there are days where I'm like, oh gosh, what about this and what about that and what if and this, and I think it's human nature to say that we don't get that, that worriedness sometimes. That I think people would be lying. I think, but if you can look at it that 3/4 of your cup is full of happiness and joy, and then maybe only that quarter cup is just full of like that scary, that doubt, the worry, that's manageable. It's when the scary and the doubts and everything else becomes the 3/4 and the happiness is only the quarter. That's when we really need to worry. Okay, so in what ways has connecting with other caregivers impacted your experience of raising a child with a disability? Like, so going back to that community part of Heba.
As we said, it changed everything. Once I started chatting with other caregivers, it really shifted my mindset, and just seeing, that other people are doing this and other cool people having cool lives are doing this. There was something I could aspire to. And I'm unfortunately the kind of person that needs to aspire to cool, shiny things. And, meeting other caregivers really opened my mind up to that. And yeah, I mean, even just on that topic with the Heba app, I noticed as a caregiver, often when we're presented with resources, they're really ugly. No thought has gone into the design. Often, things are designed to look like they should appeal to children. There's a lot of Comic Sans, there's a lot of rainbows going on, which it might be fine. Not my style. I was like, why can't we have nice, sleek, beautifully designed resources that have human stories and really connect and share information, but in a really accessible way that isn't medical. And that's what I hope my book was, and that's what this app is. It's just a thing of beauty, and I think we need more beautiful resources like this in our lives. And why shouldn't we have them? We're an enormous market with, thanks to schemes like the NDIS, with a lot of buying power. And I really like the shift we're seeing in that services providers, resources are having to up their game and provide, beautiful, well thought out, really cleverly marketed things for us. I'm loving seeing this change. And Heba is definitely an example of something that's been gorgeously designed by really, really clever tech people for families like us.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm going to segue because I wanted to ask you about your Tubie Talks podcast and the magazine that you have created, I believe.
Yeah, well, this again came off the back of me crash landing into a new area and being like, help. Arlo started tube feeding at 5 and it was a disaster. He'd been, us helping him spoon feed purees up until that point. And, we realized that it wasn't safe for him to eat anymore. And overnight, he went from breakfast, lunch, and dinner to 6 bottles of a commercial formula pumped through him into his stomach. And it wasn't working. He was vomiting it all up. He was just fading away. And again, the community, I went on the Tubee's podcast, beautiful Mandy and Kate, and had a big whinge about how this all wasn't working. And one of their incredible community members, Erin, got in touch with me and said, love, it doesn't have to be that hard. Just blend up what he was eating before a bit thinner and shove it through the tube. And we did. And from the second that stuff hit his stomach, everything changed. And we had our boy back. And now he just has all his regular meals again, just pushed through the tube. And it was a revelation. And I was like, why were we not supported by our medical team? There were whispers of a blended diet, but it was very much, you need to get the formula right first. And it's maybe not safe, and it's not easy. And it's like, I hate to think what would have happened to Arlo if I didn't have the community behind me and giving me the confidence to do what felt right, what felt logical for him. And that's where the blend came from. So I've always loved working in magazines, and I was like, this is an excuse to make a beautiful lifestyle magazine for the tube feeding community. So I interview families, people who tube feed, medical experts all around the world, and put it together in what is the Vogue living for tube feeding. I buddied up with a gorgeous designer who I used to work with in a magazine, Edie, and she and I make it together. And it's unexpectedly gone off. It has a ton of support. We have partnerships with businesses serving the tube feeding space globally, and we can publish it annually now. So it comes out during Feeding Tube Awareness Week in February. The Tubie Talks podcast launched with the one this year, and that was just a case of me going into people's houses that tube feed and just spending the day and seeing how they do it and chatting with them. So that was really cool as well. But never in a million years thought I would be editing a tube feeding lifestyle magazine, but here we are, and there's a hunger, no pun intended, for it, and it's going off, and I love it. It's so amazing again to be talking with our community and to be producing, what I think is a really beautiful resource for families like my own.
And I think it's really important because there's clearly a need for it, right? There's clearly a need for a community of people who do have a child with a tube feeding option that they need to be fed through a tube. And so what does that look like? Because again, it doesn't come with a manual, I'm sure. I'm sure you didn't get a big stack of information to be like, oh, you can try this and you can try that and la la la. So after this finishes, can you please send me the links to the podcast and to the magazine? I'd love to be able to share it with the community. Okay, we're in rapid fire questions, baby.
All right.
Don't worry, it's nothing too scared or too scary, I should say. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Stay in the moment. Easier said than done. I do it by literally staring into Arlo or Odie's eyes, like literally creepily focused, thinking about the future. Not helpful. And even if your worst nightmares come true, you're not going to feel the way about them then that you do now. So stay in the moment.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. What is your favorite go-to resource?
Oh, I loved the Tubee's podcast. Sadly, no longer, but their whole 5 years of episodes are still there to listen to, which is great. What else do I love? There are other great podcasts, like The Rare Life is amazing. I think podcast is a good one. I mean, yes, books are great, but certainly when we're tired, it's easy just to shove podcasts in your ears. It's such an easy way to connect and just be hugged into this, community in an audio way.
Absolutely. And like, let's be honest, I struggle to read at nighttime because I'm so tired at that point that I read one page, it didn't actually make sense, and then I go to sleep. So it doesn't really work for me. What's the most rewarding part about the work you do?
Honestly, like I interviewed a mum for the blend, the new issue, the other day, and typical fashion, she's with her son in a shopping center in between appointments, and we just had the most meaningful, beautiful chat about our boys and tube feeding and tears. And I came off and I'm like, I cannot believe I get to have this kind of connection with total strangers every week. I'm getting goosebumps now, even 100%, just talking with our community and feeling that instant rapport, that instant understanding there are no words. It's awesome.
Because you get that energy, right? You can feel their energy. You can feel what they're going through. So I love that so much. What is your proudest moment so far?
I think learning to be an advocate for Arlo generally and learning. I said and thought a lot of silly things at the start of this. So I guess it's not a particular moment, but I guess being a bit wiser when speaking in this space, meeting disabled adults, incredible disabled adults doing incredible things, learning from them. That's been the thing I'm proudest of. What I've learnt and how far I've come from the person I was before my eyes were opened to the ordinariness of disability and how common it is and how it's everywhere. I'm super proud of how far I've come in that sense.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Okay, if you could give one piece of advice to a parent who's just starting out on a journey of special needs or a disability, what would you say to them?
Find us, connect with us. I know it's the thought of probably talking in real life with another one of us is terrifying at the start, but link into the communities online, books, there are podcasts, incredible social media accounts, so much incredible content available now that you can connect with. So I say, yes, find us. We are here when you're ready. We see you, we get you. It is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more because I think, I don't know about everyone else on, especially with yourself, is that I was too scared to like anything or follow anything for fear that they'd be like, someone else would see that I had followed an account and be like, why is Natalie following an autism account? That's weird. What's going on? Right. So there was a lot of shame associated with the diagnosis. And so I think it is important to talk to someone, especially people who have gone through it. I am a huge advocate of just having the conversation with parents who have been through it before, regardless of whether it's autism, regardless, like whatever the diagnosis is, having the chat and just being like, what has your journey been like? And this is where I'm at. And most of the time, most parents be like, I remember that. I remember being back there, right? I remember that time when I was feeling really overwhelmed in the past. But now it looks like a completely different ball game, right? Once you've had that time to digest and incorporate the diagnosis into your world and what that looks like and means to you. I think that's a really big one, what it means to you. Because for me, it meant not so good things. I now look at it and like, no, it's not the tragedy that I thought it was in the beginning. And I think that's really important. So just to wrap it up, is there anything else that you would like to share with us, Mel?
No, just Nat, thank you so much for having me. I hope it's been helpful for your community. I'd encourage everyone to jump on Heba, try it for your family. Let us know what you think. We are constantly gathering feedback, so we'd love to hear from you and really hope that you find it a helpful tool. And yeah, thank you again, lovely Nat, for everything you do for our community. It's so appreciated.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on, Mel. I've appreciated your time. And yeah, I look forward to working together soon. So, yes, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Nat.
Thanks. Bye.